Welcome to Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico. I'm your host, Steve Ricardo, and I'm overly excited to be recording in our new podcast home here in beautiful New Alliance, in the New Alliance complex in Union Square, Somerville, Mass, with engineer Herb Morsiglio at the helm. How'd I do? Morsiglio. We got Herb on a little microphone too. So this is the third location for New Alliance, and over the years it's been an honor to be associated with all three in one way or the other. Originally back in 1997, when I moved back to Boston after working at A&M Records, I had an office at the original New Alliance studio, which was at 1312 Boylston Street. It was where the location where Godsmack and many other huge bands started. A lot of bands had rehearsal spaces there, like Roadsaw had their rehearsal space there, and many other bands too. 3.5 Girls, a band that I had signed to Curve of the Earth, also had a space there. So Alvin Long hooked me up with an office there. The rent was really low, so I was able to stay there. That was really cool. Their second location was in Cambridge, which they got pushed out of that building, unfortunately. And this one is basically still brand new. It's number 3, beautiful Somerville, one of my favorite places in the entire United States. So I am extremely honored to be recording here today and in the future. And hopefully we're going to start making this a live show at some point. But right now we're still recording and taping it for later. So this is technically episode number 13 of Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico. But before I start talking about a couple different topics, I wanted to thank our patrons who have generously supported the podcast. Zach, Ellie, Chad, Maria, Lee, Sue, and Andy, all on patreon.com/twistedrico. Thank you very much. Without your money, it would be hard to keep this going, and I really appreciate it. Andy, by the way, is Andy Pratt, who wrote the song Avenging Annie, which was a big commercial hit in the 70s. I had to mention that because I did not expect him to become a patron. I still can't pronounce that, but we'll say patron. And when he did, I thought it was pretty cool because he just wrote me and asked me if I could ever talk about him on my show. And I was like, sure. And lo and behold, there he is, a monthly supporter of the podcast. If you want to contribute to this, the way I was speaking, just go to Patreon, patreon.com/twistedrico. A mere $1 a month is the minimum. So if you donate $1 a month, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I also want to thank Nina, our original Blowing Smoke model, Chili Kurtz of Caged Heat, Sue, and Cactus, who's an alt model, otherwise known as @CatnipCutie, KatnipKutie. She's on Twitter and Instagram. Not safe for work photos, by the way, on those sites, so be careful with that, where you decide to check it out. They've all sent in photos of themselves wearing Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico t-shirts, which has made me very happy. CatnipCutie, Cactus, actually doesn't have very much clothing on besides the t-shirt and the one she sent me, but nobody's really complaining, man, women. No, everyone seems to be happy with that. So, of course, I'm happy with it, too. I want to talk about a couple different things this week. One is, last Saturday, my good friend Alvin Long, who has an office right down the hall here and actually started New Alliance Studios, he's the mastermind behind the art and music facility that I actually am sitting in right now, joined me in checking out garage rock legends and Boston royalty, the Lyres, at the Once Ballroom in Somerville, right down the road. I'd never been there. I found the venue to be really cool, and, we had an awesome time, man, and it was great seeing the Lyres, who have been around for, I understand now, 40 years they've been rocking. I remember when I was at WDJM in Framingham, college radio music director, we were playing the Lyres back in 1981, 82, 83. They're still playing. The band's current lineup, which has been together now for almost 10 years, features my old friend Steve Aquino on guitar and Dave Suspaniak, otherwise known as Dave Spaz, on bass. Couple of Wormtown guys from Worcester. We called Worcester Wormtown because back in the old days, Wormtown punk was a thing, and I still refer to it as Wormtown. Those two guys joined drummer Paul Murphy and the man himself, Jeff Connolly, who, from what I understand, does not like being called Mono Man anymore. But I will forever be calling him Mono Man. He'll be my Mono Man forever. And they were excellent. The band was in amazing form. They played old songs, new songs. We're talking about a fine oiled garage rock machine. I mean, everything about this band is intense. And from what I hear, their rehearsals are even intense. I've been told by some of my friends in the band that they will play a song for like an hour straight until they get it down and Jeff Connolly's happy with it, which I think is like, it could be considered a little over the top, but you can't argue with the formula of the Lyres because the band has been so successful for so many years. In regards to this show, I was mostly impressed by Steve Aquino's incredible guitar playing. He's probably one of the most underrated guitar players in the business. I'm not just talking about garage rock. I'm talking about the music business in general. His playing that night was just phenomenal to go along with Jeff's keyboards and the rhythm section. So I was blown away. What really blew both Alvin and myself away was who was in the room. It was like a who's who of the Boston music scene. I mean, I'm sitting there and all of a sudden Clint Conley from Mission of Burma walks by me and I'm like, wow, Clint Connolly's here. But that was only the beginning because Margaret Garrett of the legendary punkified blues band duo, I should say, Mr. Airplane Man, who now has a new band called True Horizon, was in the room. Mitch from Triple Thick was in the room. Cam and Kim Acklin of the Black Souls were there. Of course, Cam was the singer of one of my all-time favorite Boston bands, the Prime Movers, which way back long ago in, I believe, 1981, played a Battle of the Bands in Somerville, not too far from where we are. Why can't I remember the name of the place? It'll come to me. It was a small divey bar, not there anymore. And I was a judge in the Battle of the Bands while I was the music director at DJM and actually casted the winning vote for them. To this day, whenever I see Cam, we still talk about that because they played with some redneck Southern rock band who had all the people there, and the Prime Movers had like 10 punk rock kids. I voted for them. They won. Rick Hart, the man behind Ace of Hearts Records, who will be joining us on a future podcast. We're trying to get our schedules together for that. He can't do weekends, so we're going to work it out during the week. We're going to record him. He was in attendance. He signed and found Mission of Burma, the Neighborhoods, the Lyres, the Nervous Eaters, Real Kids. I mean, he's a legend. Produced all those bands. So seeing Rick was really cool. Artie Schneiderman, the singer of the Crybabies, another cool Worcester, Mass band. Steve Aquino, of course, the guitar player in that band, was there. Brett Milano, one of Boston's great music journalists, was there. The Crash Course from the Ravers dude, Brian Young, who's always a trip, was in the room. I talked to him for a few minutes. He does a show on WMFO in Medford at Tufts. I've been on his show a few times. He was there. And last but not least, Randall from the great Boston band Scruffy the Cat. It was an incredible turnout and a lot of fun being out in Somerville for my first time at Once Ballroom. Okay, so this is a more kind of depressing segment, but it's something we got to talk about. A lot of famous rock stars have been passing away lately, and one that really hit home recently for me was Ric Ocasek. Having grown up in New England, and I remember like hearing "Let the Good Times Roll" on WAF when I was in high school, and then seeing the band play at the Music Inn in Western Mass, opening for the Climax Blues Band, which was a really unusual bill. But my old buddy Ken Berry and myself drove all the way out there from a Worcester area to see the Cars open for the Climax Blues Band. No one even knew who the Cars were, but we heard them on AAF and we had to see them, so we drove all the way out there. I actually got to meet Ric Ocasek that day for the first time. He was hanging out eating a hot dog with one of his kids, and me and Kenny decided, let's go over and just talk to him because he's a really tall dude. So we saw him, so we went over and we started chatting with him, and he was really cool. We ate hot dogs with him back when I used to eat hot dogs back in the old days. And I actually got to say hi to him a couple of times after that in more professional settings, but that was the one I remember the most because it was like so casual. Rick was born in Baltimore, and he moved to Cleveland when he was 16 years old. And that's where he met Benjamin Orr. And the two started playing together. Eventually, they decided that Cleveland wasn't a big enough market for them to get anywhere. So they moved to Boston and played in several bands together. And it wasn't until 1976 that Gregory Hawkes, Elliot Easton, and David Robinson all hooked up with Rick and Ben and formed the Cars. It was a lineup which was together for the band's entirety pretty much, and just this past year was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It took a little while, but you've heard me bash the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before, but I think lately they're starting to get it together and they're getting bands that deserve to be in there, the Cars being one of them. I mean, they released 7 albums together, all great, especially the debut album, which featured Let the Good Times Roll and some of my favorite Cars songs like Bye Bye Love, All Mixed Up, and one of their greatest hits, Just What I Needed. Their follow-up to that was Candy-O. It's also high on my list. That record included the incredible track Dangerous Type, which ended up, I think, becoming one of their biggest hits. It was in really cool films, and you still hear that song pop up here and there. Rick also recorded 7 solo records, 7, which a lot of people don't know, but ultimately might also be remembered as a superb record producer because he recorded numerous albums over the years, including records by Suicide, Bad Brains, Romeo Void, 3 albums with Weezer, including their debut Blue album, which, let's face it, whether you like Weezer or not, it's one of the best albums of the last, one of the best American albums since the 90s, I'd say. You know, it had 4 hit songs on it, and it was it kind of opened the door for nerd rock. I guess that's what we can call them, nerd rockers. And he also produced the Green album, which had Mikey Welsh on bass, local guy Mikey Welsh, who grew up here in New England, passed away, unfortunately. And it had one of their best songs, Hash Pipe, which was a real rocker and had a really cool video in it. He also produced Bad Religion's The Gray Race, which is one of their best albums. And here's a cool record that a lot of people might know that he produced. Whether you like the band or not, they're kind of part of the nerd rock thing. Not a Surf. He did the song, their debut, which had the song Popular on it, which was one of their biggest hits. The video is fantastic. It's a kid in high school, and he's, on the football team, and he's got the cheerleaders dancing around. I had to watch the video again right after Rick passed away because I remembered he did it, and I wanted to watch it, and it's a really funny video. At that time when it came out, it was a huge hit. And he also did he did 5 tracks, actually, with Motion City Soundtrack, which is one of my favorite bands from the Epitaph label. They're kind of the most poppiest band, I would say, on Epitaph, which is mostly punk and heavy bands. And he did 5 tracks on the Even If It Kills Me album, which is my personal favorite album by them. So, not only as a great musician, a great producer, an A&R guy at Elektra Records, someone that worked with bands early in their careers like Suicide and Bad Brains and Romeo Void. They were really influential punk bands from the early days, and Rick was way involved in them. He's a true legend in every sense of the word, who has left his mark in a big way. So in a week that saw Eddie Money and Daniel Johnson and Ric Ocasek all pass away, really tough losses for the music business. But I always tell people, we're all going to die. Everybody. I mean, we've lost so many great rock stars, Tom Petty, David Bowie, John Lennon, Freddie Mercury, Jimi Hendrix, Morrison, Joplin. I mean, you could go on. And it's just going to keep happening, and there's no way to stop it. I'd like to thank our sponsor, who's been there for the last several episodes, JLS Design. They're located in Leicester, Mass. So since I moved back to Massachusetts from Pittsburgh, I've been able to go out there. They made really cool shirts for us. Those things disappeared in faster than any shirts could disappear. I mean, they're all gone. I think I got 2 of them stashed away. Those guys made them for me. They do custom screen printing and embroidery. It's a great place for bands to get all their t-shirts, hats, hoodies, etc. If you go there and you mention Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico, you'll get 10% off your order. It's jlsdesignprinting.com, and it's jlsdesignsales@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for listening to Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico podcast, and please consider supporting us for $1 a month on the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/twistedrico, where you can get exclusive updates, photos, etc. We really enjoy doing this, and I have a feeling it's going to get better and better now that I'm here at New Alliance, and I've got all these people that want to be on the show. I talked to Rick Hart, he's down. Alvin Long's going to be on, possibly the next episode. Greg Allen, who's a guy that started in New York and moved to Boston. Chili Kurtz, I'm going to have the Charms on. There's other people I'm not going to mention I've talked to. I want to get them confirmed, and so I'm really excited about this. Lastly, before I go, a farewell and dedication to my cat and friend of 17 years, Angel City, who passed away this past week. It was a tough week, but my memories of her are great. She lived in 6 states with me, with her brother Mauro, who passed away last year, and sad, but gone but not forgotten. So till the next time we say goodbye, this is Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico. I'm your host, Steve Ricardo. Keep the rock and roll alive.